In today's Reddit story, my wife cheated, filed for divorce, and thought she'd live off my money forever. She demanded permanent alimony because she was too stressed to work. The judge was about to rule in her favor until my lawyer played a video of her bragging about how she'd never work a day in her life. The judge looked at her and said, "You ever watch someone dig their own grave and just let them?" Because that's exactly what I did when my wife Lauren decided she was going to cheat on me, divorce me, and live off my money for the rest of her life. And the best part? She thought she was so damn smart. Lauren was never the type to be subtle. When we first got together, she was sweet, affectionate, and always talking about building a future together. But over time, the little things started to change. The late nights at the gym, the sudden obsession with her phone, the way she started talking about her new work friend, Ryan, like he was the funniest guy on the planet. I wasn't dumb. One day, she went to take a shower but left her laptop open. Her messages were right there. "Ryan, you look so good in that dress today, babe. Wish I could have taken it off you myself." I know. Jason didn't even notice. He's so checked out, LeMayo. Checked out? I worked 60-hour weeks to make sure she never had to lift a damn finger. I put her through college. I paid for everything. And the second she got bored, she was out screwing some guy from her office. I should have confronted her. I should have thrown her out that night. But instead, I took a deep breath, sat back, and let her keep digging. Because I knew something she didn't. Lauren thought she was in control. She had no idea that I was about to flip the entire game on her. A month later, Lauren hit me with the classic, "We need to talk." She sat me down, put on her best fake sad face, and started talking about how we've grown apart and maybe we'd be happier with other people. I almost laughed. She thought she was so slick. She wanted to be the one to file first, because in our no-fault state, that gave her a better shot at getting spousal support. And she didn't just want support. She wanted permanent alimony. Her exact words? "Jason, I can't just start over from nothing. I've been out of the workforce for too long, and the stress of this divorce is affecting my mental health. I shouldn't have to struggle just to survive." Survive? She wanted half my assets, half my retirement, and a monthly check for the rest of her life. Because in her words, "It's only fair after everything I've done for you." What exactly had she done for me? She hadn't worked in years, hadn't cooked, cleaned, or even been faithful. But somehow she thought she was entitled to my entire future. I looked her right in the eye and said, "You're right. Let's do this amicably." And that was the moment I knew. She thought she had won. From the second Lauren filed, I knew the only way to destroy her was to let her think she was winning. If I got angry, if I fought too soon, she'd play the victim. So instead, I played along. I agreed to all her initial demands without a fight. I let her talk shot about me to her friends. I let her brag about how she was about to be set for life. Because the truth was, I already had something that would ruin her. She had no idea what was coming. And when she walked into that courtroom, ready to take me for everything, she was about to find out just how bad she messed up. Walking into that courtroom, Lauren had the confidence of someone who thought she already won. She strutted in wearing a subtly expensive outfit. Nothing too flashy, but just nice enough to say, "Look at me, I'm the picture of a struggling ex-wife who still carries herself with grace." Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was soft and natural. She had even brought tissues, like she was preparing for an emotional breakdown that she could conveniently use to sway the judge. And when she saw me sitting at my table, calm, collected, completely unbothered, she smirked. Because in her mind, I had already given up. She had no idea. The hearing started with her lawyer presenting their case. A woman in her mid-40s, polished but slightly aggressive, standing up with a deeply concerned expression as she spoke. "Your Honor, my client gave her best years to this marriage. She supported her husband, sacrificed her career, and now, after years of emotional hardship, she is being cast aside without the means to sustain herself. This divorce has taken a severe toll on her mental health, rendering her unable to work at this time." I almost laughed. Lauren sat beside her lawyer, dabbing at her eyes with one of the tissues she had oh so conveniently brought. Then she started talking. She let out a shaky breath, voice soft, fragile. "I never thought I'd be in this position. I gave everything to our marriage. I built a home. I supported Jason in his career, and I was happy to do it because I believed in us. Oh, you mean the same marriage you threw away the second you found a younger guy to screw? But I stayed quiet. Lauren paused, sniffled, and let the tension linger in the air before continuing. When we separated, I was devastated. I had no income, no way to support myself, and the stress has been unbearable. Her voice broke. She gripped the tissue just a little tighter. Your Honor, I wake up every day with anxiety so severe that I can't even function. The thought of having to enter the workforce after all these years, she swallowed. I don't know how I'm supposed to survive. She lowered her head, trembling slightly, as her lawyer placed a comforting hand on her arm. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, gave her a long, unreadable look. Then she turned to my lawyer. Mr. Reynolds, do you have any questions for the petitioner? My lawyer, cool, professional, and completely unimpressed, stood up and buttoned his jacket. Just a few, Your Honor. Lauren tensed. She wasn't expecting questions. She thought her sob story was enough. But it was time for her to start sweating. Mr. Reynolds walked up, holding a file in his hand like he was completely unbothered. Mrs. Jones, you testified that you have no income, correct? Lauren nodded, sniffling. Yes. And you stated that your anxiety prevents you from working? Yes. And you are requesting permanent alimony based on this claim? Yes, she whispered, her voice delicate and vulnerable. My lawyer nodded thoughtfully. Then he glanced at me. That was the signal. I sat up straighter, my hands folded on the table. It was time. Your Honor, my lawyer said, completely calm, completely composed. We have one last piece of evidence to submit into the record. Lauren froze. The judge raised an eyebrow. Proceed. Mr. Reynolds pulled out a USB drive and walked over to the clerk. This is a short video, taken 3 weeks ago, of Mrs. Jones speaking with friends at a private gathering. The defense argues that it is relevant to her claims in this case. Lauren turned to her lawyer, panicking. Wait, what is this? She whispered, her voice no longer delicate, no longer in control. Her lawyer looked just as confused. I don't know. The judge nodded at the clerk. Play it. The screen lit up, and there she was. Lauren, at a house party, holding a wine glass, laughing with her friends. And then came the words that sealed her fate. Honestly, I'm never working again. She giggled. Jason makes too much money, and after this divorce, I'm set for life. Her friends laughed. One of them, probably just as awful as she was, raised her glass and said, Ugh, I wish I could pull that off. And Lauren? Lauren smirked and said, You just gotta marry a guy who doesn't see it coming. The video ended. The courtroom was dead silent. Lauren's face went pale. Her lawyer slowly closed her eyes, exhaling through her nose like she was counting to 10. The judge? The judge turned to Lauren with the most disgusted expression I have ever seen, and then she spoke. The silence in that courtroom? It was deafening. Lauren sat there, her face frozen in horror, watching her entire case crumble in real time. She opened her mouth, probably to start spinning some ridiculous excuse, but before she could even get a word out, the judge sighed and leaned forward. And that's when I knew. Lauren was done. Judge Miller, a woman who had probably seen every trick in the book, tapped her fingers against her bench and stared at Lauren like she was looking at something disgusting on the bottom of her shoe. Mrs. Jones, she started, slowly, deliberately, would you care to explain that video? Lauren's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. She turned to her lawyer, desperation in her eyes, but even her lawyer looked like she was ready to throw in the towel. Finally, Lauren managed to speak. That video is out of context. Judge Miller tilted her head. Out of context? Mrs. Jones, do enlighten me. What exactly is the correct context for I'm never working again and you just gotta marry a guy who doesn't see it coming? Lauren swallowed hard. Her hands were trembling now. I was just joking. Joking. The judge leaned back in her chair, unamused. So to clarify, your claim is that you are too emotionally distressed to work. Yet, while this divorce was pending, you attended social events, drank with friends, and openly bragged about how you plan to avoid working for the rest of your life on your husband's dime. Lauren didn't answer, because there was no answer. She knew it. Her lawyer knew it. Hell, at this point, even the court clerk looked embarrassed for her. Judge Miller sighed and shook her head. I have heard enough. The judge straightened her papers and looked at me first. Mr. Jones, based on the evidence provided, it is clear that your wife's request for permanent alimony is not based on genuine financial need, but rather on an attempt to take advantage of the system. Therefore, she turned back to Lauren, her expression completely stone cold. Mrs. Jones, your request for permanent alimony is hereby denied. Boom, just like that. But she wasn't done. Furthermore, she continued, since this court finds that you misrepresented your situation, you will not be awarded temporary spousal support either. Boom again. Lauren's face was completely drained of color. She looked like she had just been hit by a truck. And then came the final twist. Judge Miller glanced at my lawyer. Mr. Reynolds, I assume your client has incurred legal fees in response to this case? My lawyer nodded immediately. Yes, Your Honor. Given the petitioner's false claims, we request reimbursement for legal costs. Judge Miller turned back to Lauren. Mrs. Jones, given that you have wasted this court's time with fraudulent claims, I am ordering you to pay a portion of your husband's legal fees. The courtroom gasped. Lauren's entire body jerked forward like she had been slapped. What? No, that's not fair. Judge Miller didn't even blink. Fair? She repeated, mocking. Mrs. Jones, what's not fair is attempting to manipulate this court for financial gain. You will be responsible for reimbursing Mr. Jones's attorney fees in the amount of... She turned to my lawyer, who immediately handed over a neatly prepared document. Judge Miller scanned it. Then she looked back at Lauren. $12,000, to be paid in full within 6 months. I swear to God, I have never seen a human soul leave someone's body so fast. Lauren actually started shaking. I don't have that kind of money, she cried. Judge Miller didn't care. Then I suggest you start working. And with that, she banged the gavel. Case closed. Lauren was officially ruined. The moment court adjourned, Lauren turned to me with wild, desperate eyes. Jason, she whispered, shaking. Please, we can work something out. I stared at her. This woman had cheated on me, lied in court, and tried to take my money forever. And now that she had lost, she wanted to negotiate. I smiled. Good luck, Lauren. Then I turned around and walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't answer when she called my name. Didn't acknowledge her when she finally broke down sobbing on the courtroom bench. She had spent months planning to ruin my life. Instead, she had ruined her own. That night, I got one last text. Jason, please, I don't deserve this. Just talk to me. I stared at it for a long moment. Then, I deleted it. No response. No closure. Just silence. Because in the end, she wasn't my problem anymore. I was already gone.